So as I mentioned before, our project consists of two parts. So first we need to find the average temperature, then we need to find out how many days is above the average temperature. Now in this case, we can find the average temperature without using array data structure. So let's see how can we implement it without using array data structure. Then we will find out how array data structure makes things possible that were not impossible before. So in this case, as I said before, the first thing that I'm going to do, I need to get input from a user. So in Java, to get input from user, we can use scanner class. So by using scanner class, we can get the values from the console and use it in our program. So in this case, what I'm going to do, the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to create an instance of scanner class. So to use scanner class, you need to import Java util. Then inside this main method, I'm going to implement our project. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to initialize scanner class. Console, so I will name it console is equal to new scanner. So inside this one is going to be system.in. So with this line of code, we are initializing our scanner class. So then after initializing this, I need to print out message to ask from a user how many days temperature we are going to use. So in this case, I need to print out message to the console. So we know that in Java, to print out message to the console, we are using print method. So I'm going to call system.out.print. So inside print statement, I'm going to ask how many days temperature. Then after doing so, I'm going to get the number of days and store it in an integer variable. So I'm going to create integer variable num_days. So it will get input from the console. So to get input from the console, I'm going to put console. So this is scanner class over here, console.nextInt. So in this case, it's going to be integer number. So that's why I'm putting nextInt over here. So after getting them, I need to calculate the sum of them. And then using number of days, we are going to calculate the average of these days. So we know that to calculate average, we need to take sum of all days temperature and divide it by number of days. So in this case, I'm going to create another variable for sum, and initially it will be set to 0. Then I'm going to loop through 1 until the number of days and get days temperature from the console. So to do so, I'm going to write loop like this. So for int I equal 1, so it will continue I less than equal to num_days. So we need to get all days temperature. Then it will be increased by 1. So inside this loop, I'm going to print out to the console asking the days temperatures. So I'll just copy this code from here and put it inside this loop. So I'll change the message inside this one. So as you remember, the first thing was day. So here, which day's temperature is going to be I plus high temp. Then one more time, we are going to call console nextInt to get the integer variable from the console and add it to this sum variable over here. So next variable will be console.nextInt. Then we are going to add it to sum plus will be next. So with this code over here, we are getting the days temperature from the console and adding them to the sum variable over here. So it depends on the number of days we have inserted over here. So if we have inserted number of days, for example, 2, it's going to ask 2 days temperature over here. So we are going to add it to the sum variable over here. Now, after adding it, we need to calculate the average temperature. So average temperature will be double data type. So I'm going to create double average variable and calculate the average temperature. So to calculate average temperature, we are going to take sum divided by number of days. Then after calculating this, we are going to print out to the console average temperature. So it's going to be like this. So here you need it to be a double. So here I'm going to print out to the console. I just need to put one space to the console. So that's why I put println first. Then I'm going to print out to the console this one. So println is going to be average temp plus average. Now with this, we have concluded calculation of average temperature. So if we run our code, you will see that the first thing that it does, it asks number of days temperature. So this line of code is executed over here and it comes over here to wait for the next line of code. So we need to input number of days. For example, for simplicity, if I put 2 over here and hit enter, so you see that it continues to the inside of this loop over here, in which it's asking the day 1's high temperature. So if I put over here 10 and hit enter, it's looping again this loop over here and asking for the next day's temperature. So next day's temperature, I'm going to put 20 and hit enter. It's going to print out to the console average temperature is 15. Now everything works over here smoothly and we have not used array data structure. But the question over here is, how do you count how many days were above the average? So we could try to incorporate it inside this loop over here, but it won't work. The problem is you cannot figure out the average until you have gone through all of the data. This means that you need to make a second pass through the data to figure out how many days were average temperatures. So after getting all days temperature, we are calculating the average temperature. Then one more time we need to loop through these days of temperature and find out which day's temperature is above the average temperature. Now inside this loop we cannot do it because we have to loop through all days temperature, then we can calculate the average temperature. So this means that we cannot do it using scanner class because a scanner class has no reset option that allows you to see the data second time. You would have to prompt to user enter temperature a second time, so we can use scanner class to prompt the user to enter the temperature second time. But this would be very silly because in professional programs we can only ask data from a user one time and use it several times in our code. So that's why we cannot ask using scanner class second time, because by mistakenly they can enter the different data and actually no one wants to enter same information twice to the program. So how can we solve this problem? Fortunately, we can solve this problem with the array. As the user enters the number, we can compute the cumulative sum and we can save this data in our array. So then after saving that, we can make second pass through the array in which we have saved the all days temperature and find out the average temperature. Now in the next lecture, we are going to implement this logic in our program.